We have commercial pilot Josh Schirard joining us right now. So, Josh, we talked about all kinds of different things today. I mean, one of the things that's come up, multiple reports that maybe staffing among air traffic controllers was at issue, possibly one person doing the job that's normally done by two. Was there a communications issue? Were there different frequencies? What's your biggest observation as you look at all of this?
Really, it's looking at it from a pilot's perspective and seeing exactly what data all of those entities, the pilots and ATC, had to them at the time of the crash and the minutes leading up to the crash. And really, it's taking that data that we know right now and looking at it with a very critical eye to see if there's something that we can change right now without waiting, months or even the weeks for an NTSB report. If there's something that we can change or we need to be doing different right now to prevent this from happening again. At any given moment, there's 5,000 plus commercial airplanes in the sky in the U.S. At any time. And there's thousands of pilots that are flying every day. Tomorrow, I load up and I go fly. And I want to know, is there something I should be doing different? Is there something that we can be doing different as aviation professionals to make sure that this doesn't happen so that we can assure our passengers that they're going to be safe?
Is there? Does one thing stand out?
Really, when we're looking at this, I'm looking at what we knew from the communication that's been released and what we can see based on the data. And a lot of that is, for me, is what were the Army Blackhawk helicopter broadcasting as far as signal source. I know you've talked about ADS-B and how that communicates to planes all over, but it doesn't appear that this military helicopter was broadcasting ADS-B, but they're not legally required to, although the rest of commercial traffic is.
Why is that, by the way? It's just different systems, military, commercial. Why aren't they required to?
Well, it has to do with secrecy surveillance when they're in operational missions, OCONUS outside the U.S. They need to be able to turn off that surveillance system so that they're not as easily detectable. But inside the U.S., they use Mode S, which ATC can see and certain systems can. But I regularly cannot see military traffic on my particular avionics because they're not broadcasting that ADS-B. So I want to know what the pilots of the CRJ, what those American Airlines pilots could actually see leading up to the minutes of the crash.
Now, maybe someone like you does this all the time. This may not seem so, may not seem so ridiculous, or maybe it does. But to me, to someone who knows, next to nothing about all of this, I think to myself, well, how is that possible? Especially after what Leland and I were talking about a moment ago, is that he looks out his balcony where he lives in Washington. He sees these Blackhawks every day of the week, 200 feet. So it's and we know he's right by the airport, right? This is the shot from where he lives. So all the time on the Potomac, there's Blackhawk military helicopters basically every day, and there's commercial aircraft. So it just doesn't seem to make sense that we've gone this long with that sort of a system in place, or lack of a system.
Well, and the American public should know that we have gone this long without an incident like this because there are other systems in place. There are, the bifurcation of elevation of airspace. Most of the time, those Blackhawks are 200 feet or below, which should be below the normal approach path. You also have ATC as a backstop. But with that being said, ATC only has certain data available to them as well. And when they see that these aircraft are getting close to each other and they ask, do you have those aircraft in sight? And those pilots say yes. ATC is they are thinking, they are under the assurance that those pilots are going to see and avoid each other. So unfortunately, that just didn't happen in this case.
Right. So when something this horrible happens, sometimes it's more than one thing, right? I guess it's just that's why it hardly ever happens. But what you're talking about might have made it less likely, I suppose. You still want to see, for whatever reason, we still don't know why the Blackhawk was a little bit higher than it normally would be.
We don't. And of course, that's going to come out in the NTSB investigation down the road.
Right. So it's early. Thank you, Josh. We've learned, we don't know as much as you, but thank you for explaining this because it gives us a better understanding of what might have happened. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.